bringing out our first quarterfinalist representing China. It's JasonZhou.
He was top 4 at last year's World Championships. He's China's last hope. Can he bring it home for China?
And his opponent, the self-proclaimed underdog, surprising everybody at this event. It's DocPwn.
I'm going to call him the people's champ. He represents the average Joe. He knows where he stands, and a passion for competition has brought him this far.
Quarterfinal number 1, DocPwn versus JasonZhou.
I think best understanding of Hearthstone is still better than most of players.
I want to win the World Championship, right? You're getting close to it, but that has to be a lot of pressure when you're close.
So that I should not take a lot of risk in tournament.
Being a holder competitor, having a lot of experience in different competition, it helps me visualize all the outcomes of the tournament. So yeah, that would be one other advantage I would have.
I really want to win this one.
DocPwn versus JasonZhou. Let's do this!
Says he might not be the best player here, but everyone else still has to beat him, and no one has managed it yet. Is it going to be JasonZhou that takes the win?
It's a great question. For the first time during that interview, you maybe just saw those seeds of pressure coming in. Like, you can only be an underdog for so long. If you keep winning, suddenly the weight of expectation starts to fall on you, and that's the first time I've heard DocPwn say anything along the lines of, okay, the pressure's like starting to mount up now. So how long can he keep that underdog mentality going?
Yeah, I don't know, even at this point, as he said, like, once you get closer, yes, you do really want it even more because you were that close. Let's have a look at the lineup. The Control Warlock is gone from JasonZhou, and the Cube Warlock has gone from DocPwn. So it looks like no Warlock for us today, but still plenty of decks left. How are you feeling about this matchup in general? Because a lot of players have commented on Doc's almost like greediness in his list that is really going to help him out in this tournament.
Yeah, I think DocPwn, it's not just the fact that he's being underestimated. I don't think that's the case at all. He's come into the tournament with a fantastic lineup, and I think that's been a thread that's weaved through HCT this entire year. It's the great preparation and bringing the right lineup, making the right meta read, bringing the right tech cards to any given tournament can overcome a player with marginally better technical skill than you. You can just gain your percentages before you even start playing the game. I think that's something that Doc has very much done. He's brought a great lineup to this tournament, probably second only to the Scintillol and Frozen.
Sure. We are kicking it off with a Druid versus Druid mirror, and for what feels like the 100th time already in this tournament, we see Apaches in the hand and not coming shooting out of that cannon for JasonZhou. So does still have a Corridor Creeper and only one buff at the moment. You spoke to great length actually yesterday about how important the buffs are in this deck as opposed to minions, because guess what? Your deck's kind of full of minions.
Right.
You need the other stuff that makes the deck work.
Yeah, and your minions are actually very innocuous. Like, if you want an easy comparison, like, just go back to the traumatizing days of Ladder being 60% Shaman. They would play a bunch of 1-2s, and you wouldn't care. The things you were scared of were the Flame Tongue Totem and the Bloodlust coming down, because otherwise, you're just slapping your opponent with a wet noodle over and over again. It's just, you're not making any progress. That's what Mark of the Lotus, Power of the Wild, Mark of Yasharaj are to this deck. Yeah,
and the evolution of the deck after the Innovate nerf especially means that Innovate Vicious Fledgling just doesn't happen anymore. Right. It doesn't exist, it's not in the deck. Right. So you don't have that at least chance at one big, powerhouse early play, and then you ride off the rest of the game off the back of that Fledgling. DocPwn on the Jade Druid, of course, slightly greediless with the Jade Spirit as opposed to the crazy potential armor gain we've seen from the other some of the other Jade Druids going on here.
So DocPwn both with a straightforward and an incredibly complex route to get here. Straightforward because he went straight through winners with a 3-2 and 3-0 record. Complex because he had to beat Hoy and Tom60229 to do it, who are two incredible names. Jason, on the other hand, more of a mixed bag. Picked up victory over Muzzy in the run back after losing to him originally, and eliminated Kalento on the way.
Yeah, great runs for all these players, as is going to happen when the tournament is this stacked. Looking at the hands though, JasonZhou, kind of highlighting your own point here. in terms of just not missing
right?
buffs. It's like, all these minions are only cheap and only small because you can buff them up. That's the only reason they're any good.
Particularly in this matchup, Druid is the best class of the game, or when it's coming up against aggro Druid at punishing small, wide minions being on the board, because you just walk so hard into spreading play. We saw in the previous series, 2 spreading plagues come down, but it was on 3 minions that had been hit by 3 buffs, I believe, at the time. So they were 5 and 4 power by the time the spreading plague comes down. That's the situation you want to engineer as the aggro Druid player, but to do that, you need the buffs in your opening hand.
Yeah, and these are all things that are going to help Doc take a win potentially over here. And we talked a lot about his lineup, but you can hear from him how he got here as well, because he has practiced more for this tournament than any others.
So I prepare for Worlds by putting a lot more hours than I usually do. So I've been practicing quite a lot. It felt really good after putting all these hours. I feel more confident about my plays and stuff. Maybe I should have put even more hours, but you know, time, you only have 24 hours in a day, and at some point you gotta cut it out.
I imagine that point is after exactly 24 hours. Done. Go for the whole day and that's it.
Well, I mean, DocPwn has so many other obligations, though. That's what, you know, makes him
He's a busy guy.
such an everyman in this tournament. He works a full-time job. He's in a relationship. He has all these things that, you know, take up his time outside of Hearthstone. He's not a 12-hour-a-day ladder grinder like someone like Sintalol, even though he professes to only play 2 hours a day. I don't believe it.
I'm pretty sure he's a liar.
Literally trolling.
Yeah, I win all those Open Cups in 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly. To be fair, I do believe it was. I only play 2 hours a day unless there's Open Cups, and then I play for much longer. So, yeah, maybe that's more reason.
There's a kind of buff available for JasonZhou this turn in the form of Galaka and his own minion.
Right.
But still doesn't feel too great. And also, turn 4 Corridor Creep has 7 mana. It just doesn't look right. I thought this was a maximum 4 mana at this point.
Well, the silver lining to your Grey Cloud is that if your opening hand Corridor Creeper is still 7 mana, it means none of your minions have died yet. That's kind of a good thing.
There we go. The trade's making it happen for Jason to get the Corridor Creeper down low enough to be able to drop it onto the board. And now, the board looks a little bit more threatening. DocPwn to actually be able to deal with here. So this Tyrant's just like almost mocking at this point. It's you got 4 mana spells, but do you have 5? The answer is no. Higher pickup that might come in handy next turn, but these are the turns that Doc just has to be defensive now. He has to just, I feel like, clear the board once, then your main fear is a living mana draw. But outside of that, as Druid, you can only keep on top of, oh no, Firefly, or oh no, even a Corridor Creeper, as long as you can get rid of the rest of the board.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree, be defensive. He has to in this position, but there's so many ways to go about that. You can try to soften up the board so that swipe plus any top deck on the following turn, like a Spellstone or a second Wrath, would be a more effective clear. You can choose to just cycle your deck with branching paths, look for Spreading Plague. Like, is that the most defensive play you can make? There's this play that DocPwn made, which was removing as much power as he can and generating something to fight for board. Is that the most defensive play you could have made? Like, just simply saying, oh, he has to play defensive. I mean, there's so many options that he can do to go down that path. So,
Yeah, that's what I've got you for.
Option. I mean, I didn't pick one either. I just named them all. DocPwn's the one that picked a play.
That's why they're on that table and we're on this one.
Very true.
I will say as well, in generating the Jade, it ticks so many boxes. There's the ramp aspect, of course. More mana equals more things you can do. And also makes Aya even more powerful. And another way to be defensive is have better stuff than your opponent. So you just beat them up on your end instead. Or at least trade very well.
JasonZhou will probably be happy around about now for the first time in this matchup. He's just seen a 6 mana turn pass from his opponent with, it was then a 5 mana turn because Jade Blossom was cast, but he's seen a 5/5 stick to the board when up until now he's only had these small individual low attack minions in play. Now that he's consolidated a thick minion in play, he knows he's in business.
Great descriptor. You know what? Malfurion, a great pickup though. Probably the best this turn.
Yeah, Malfurion on 7. Checks out.
Yeah, you're still going to be a little bit worried because the taunts, for example, probably hit this Corridor Creeper, one of them, so then puts it to 4 so you can swipe. But you're still going to be at least prepared for a buff to come down, right? Because you can't just rely against aggro druid that, oh, swipe will always get me there next turn, because one single buff, which we've seen, what, one from?
We've seen one,
and then
we've seen one Mark of Yashara.
Yeah.
There's still both Lotus, both Power of the Wild,
Yeah.
and a second Mark of Yashara left in the deck.
The odds are pretty reasonable here, but Malfurion just has to be the turn. As a single turn, it is extremely powerful. I've heard a lot of players say it's actually just the most overall powerful Death Knight in the game. I don't know whether you're just excited, you're trying to imitate like Am was this morning, the Hydra, soundbite when it gets played onto the board. You're just excited.
That was roughly the noise that Homer Simpson makes when he sees the
Donut, yeah, okay.
That's the kind of emotional relationship I have with Bittertide Hydra.
Don't really want to go deep into this conversation.
Okay, good call. It's a huge pickup though for Jason. Like we were talking about buffs, but again, his choice to include these Hydras is something that I'm just such a huge fan of. I've been an advocate for the Hydra side of the Hydra versus Scalebane argument for a very long time. You can see why. It's just so very threatening in this position. You know, Scalebane coming down here and landing on a small minion, well, great. I mean, swipe is a potential answer to then a large chunk of the buff. You know, he can swipe a 5/5, hero power down the rest of the 5/5 body, or trade in with his Scarab, and the residual swipe damage may take care of where the rest of the buff went. Sometimes, I mean, specifically in a metagame where a lot of decks are cutting big single target removal. We're seeing Warlocks playing without Siphon Soul, for example. They're playing the Q block kind of build. Just having a huge, big, dumb pile of stats can just often get the job done in some positions.
Yeah, very, very awkward. And as you said, there's pretty much Warlock and Big Mage that's running direct. I suppose Valspine to a certain extent.
And even then, not all the Warlocks, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Not even all of them. And also Valspine requires a combo piece and needs to be on time. You know, there's a lot of ifs when dealing with big minions at the moment. Imagine if Ragnaros was still in the game. Or still in standard, should I say. Ragnaros has left half.
Death is eternal. My turn is not.
Doc just gonna take the ramp game. Does have the branching path to be able to just draw 2 cards next turn if so desired, and can combo that with just playing Aya anyway. So this one turn actually opens up a lot of paths for him to take.
It was a very cute little play as well, isolating the now 8/7 into this 1/2, meaning Jason would have to draw Savage Roar for this to be able to connect to phase. Slightly unusual usage of the Nourish in the meantime, but he does have branching paths for draw if he needs to afterwards.
Yeah, and now that I think about it, I think Kibble and Dan mentioned it yesterday when they were talking about Aggro Druid, is that Aggro Druid used to have charge minions. And now, outside of patches, they just don't really exist anymore, right? You know, there's nothing like on demand you can do that often outside of exactly Savage Roar.
It's never played a great deal of charge minions though. Like we've seen Druid of the Claw in some lists, and I think Swipe is a card that like missing changes a lot of dynamics as well because.
That was Saber as well.
True.
Back in the day.
Yeah, way back. You're right. Going that far back, yeah, you are right. There was a lot more charge in the old like Fel Reaver deck, for example.
Yeah, but I think like just having access to potential, you know, any charge actually makes a huge difference. As you said, there's literally only Savage Roar that could have even done that, but then any other minion would have got it.
My thoughts are plagued.
Probably considering the merits of shuffling Idol and then branching paths, but I imagine just Aya just feels too good this turn, especially because the Jades are a good size.
Yeah, 4/4 and 5/5 out of this Aya. It's kind of crazy. And I think this has been Doc's game plan for several turns now, is just stabilize the board, get in a position where I can play Aya. He got the Jade ramp done very early, so he's been in this position where he knows his Aya will be huge for several turns. And it's kind of just been waiting for this turn where he can get it down safely and seize this moment to capitalize now.
Yeah, and with branching paths as the leftover card in hand, all this does is open up options next turn.
Yep.
Worst case scenario, the board magically gets dealt with. He can, you know, double draw into, say, Spreading Plague, for example, or any more removal. He's even going to kill off the Hydra, use a lot of his health with that tanking, with the hero power, and just say, well, now you just have a 3/2. What is it? He's going to scratch this board. He's not even going to scratch Doc. Doc 1-0 up now versus JasonZhou. The people's champion is getting it done.
Doc, the man without a single scratch on him so far this tournament, he just keeps answering question after question. I think he navigated through that particular game very well. I know when we saw him the first time around through the playoffs and in his championship performance, there were some question marks about his actual technical play, but he's definitely gone away. I know he's done a ton of practice with Cydonia, and it's paying off from what we're seeing.
Yeah, Doc has a chance to go for a full flawless victory in the World Championship. Let's find out if he can take this series right after this.
I'm glad DocPwn stuck up for himself a little bit there. Say, hey, I'm not that old, my brain still works. The man's 32. We make it out like he's 50. He's a year older than me. I'm not happy with this guy being called old all the time.
3,200.
Oh, okay. Yeah, fair enough. Right.
Yeah, we're the old timers.
Apparently.
In games now.
Apparently, yeah.
All these young kids in the video games. Let's move on. DocPwn 1-0, and I was going to say since I met Doc like quite a while ago in the championships, he always struck me as just like always seems quite happy, quite relaxed, just enjoying the time, regardless of it whether it's hanging out or playing the actual game on stage, right? He's just enjoying it. But I do feel as we're getting closer, or as he is getting closer, should I say, you know, moving one stage forward, one more stage forward. He's feeling it a little bit more, even just going into the game then, the body language, just like the zen, okay, let's focus, I'm about to start the next game. Very important to him still.
I mean, this is the first time Doc's faced elimination in this tournament. He's always had that buffer zone. He went straight through winners in his group, so he always had the opportunity to lose. Now the pressure is on. Now all of a sudden he's facing being knocked out in the top 8. As you see some of the differences of DocPwn's deck from the average Highlander priest you'd be looking at. Firstly, of course, he's playing the Dragon package. Lyra is his choice of card engine, if you like. And then Alex Straza is a card we talked about quite extensively because he really wasn't sure. Alex Straza was the 30th card he put in this deck, essentially, and he felt like he needed one more Dragon. There's been a lot of question marks. There is a certain Cobalt Scalebane missing in this list that could have gone in there before Alex Straza.
Yeah, I mean, he said he just went with Alex. He didn't think it was the best card. It was just okay, it did the job. But I will say, again, we've talked a lot about taking risks in tournament lineups. And don't get me wrong, changing out one card, for example, isn't the greatest risk in the world. But it makes a difference, and it's something other players aren't going to build their lineup and think, what if someone's bringing Alex Straza in this deck? Can I beat it? Or what does that do to my lineup? That's something that JasonZhou and all of Doc's opponents have to just consider now. It's one extra thing they have to think about that you would normally. So although it might not be the best card choice in his deck, it's one that his opponents have to think about and play around. Both players with Anduin now, so far it's fairly even on the 3 checkbox, or the 2 checkboxes for these decks.
Doc does have the Kazakus, but the Kazakus often not a huge impact on when you play it in the game. If anything, like playing it later in the game can actually help you divine, am I taking a 1-mana potion and going for extra Velen Burst? Am I going for a 5 to try and get some card draw? Is my hand so dry that I need to go for perhaps draw 3 off the 10 option? You know, these are decisions that make or are more clear to you later in the game the more turns that you play.
Or even for a 10 option. I know in general a lot of people are, oh, you should never take 10. But sometimes, you know, say in the mirror, if Velen's already gone for your opponent, the armor makes a big difference as well. You can last that bit longer depending on the combination you get. So definitely a lot of things to consider. DocPwn considers exactly what turn he wants to make. A lot of the time, Priest of the Feast just on curve feels pretty good.
Yeah, again, Priest of the Feast is another card that can rebound you if you'll start being put under pressure by your opponent's Shadow Reaper Anduin pinging you down over the course of a couple of turns. So I actually like this Talon Priest play here. It's slightly off curve in that it was a combination of cards for his 4-mana turn when he had 2 solid 4-mana options, but I think both Priest of the Feast and Kazakus, your usage of them becomes clearer the deeper you get into the game. So.
Go for the 5, summon 2, gain 7 armor, or polymorph. Kind of a tough choice, actually. This one, nothing really stands out.
There is a Loot Hoarder that has died for JasonZhou at the moment, which means that summon 2 can serve as a quasi-card draw for him, but the nature of reviving 2 minions, one of which is a Loot Hoarder, means that you then potentially walk into the Potion of Madness from the opponent. But yeah, he's essentially gone for full card draw here because the minions he's going to revive are not threats on the board. That's not why he's reviving them. It's just there is a loot hoarder in there. He's going to draw 2 more cards as well. He's actually got so many cards in hand already that it's going to be a bit of a concern for him that he doesn't get into overdraw territory.
Yeah, it gets tricky with Lyra too. Instead of doing like Lyra, Power Word, Shield, you're like, oh wait, oh no, too many cards. And the mirror play, going for 5 as well. Deal 4 not really that important in this matchup.
Doc did not get fantastic options for his Kazaku's potion there. He kind of just shuffled together a hodgepodge of a potion there. Summon 2 friendlies and summon a 5/5 demon is the card that he's ended up with. And so far there is, I believe, just a Glimmer Root in his graveyard that died this turn.
And we'll say he has the potential, if he draws a dragon, to be able to Nether Spite and maybe play these dragons. He can get the Priest of the Feast as well, which is another high value resurrect minion. So he could get another, just use it as an extra push, you know, just say, well, you wiped the board, but now I've got 3 more minions, one's at least a 5/5. Can you wipe the board again that easily? Yep. You know, and then suddenly 5, 8, 10 damage. It's actually a lot. It's a third of your total health.
Getting these decisions right consistently in this matchup does take a large amount of divination to the forward planning, seeing how the game's going to pan out, because in certain scenarios, just picking up extra burst off your Shadow Visions is fantastic. If it's a Holy Smite, if it's a Mind Blast, you can just end the game on the spot with the extra copies of that. Is it removal that you need? And what's it going to be? Is it AoE or is it spot removal? Is it just something that's going to help you?
Too many questions,
but that's like 25% of the questions you have to ask yourself every single turn when you're playing like a complex mirror like this. It's a shame that outside of all of those decisions, the presence of Raza and Anduin at different positions in each deck for each player can often have such a huge impact on how this matchup plays out, because outside of that individual thing, the matchup is so complicated.
It really is, and also I feel like one of the most punishing as well. Like one misstep, and you could just die mainly because of the power of those combos later on, and you even just 1 card behind. I've seen mirrors where one player's like 6 cards ahead through their deck. You're just like, what do you do as the opponent in that point? But at the moment, both players are actually pretty even in terms of how deep they are in the deck. It's more about the hand and what they choose to do with it at this moment. There's the potion from Doc, and as I said earlier, that's actually a relatively threatening board now.
And this goes back to the point of forward planning and, like, honestly predicting the future that you need if you play cards like Shadow Visions early in this matchup. Jason took Shadow of Pain, killed a minion, and then, well, the Kazaku's potion just revived it, plus a 5/5, plus another minion. He was offered Dragonfire potion from that Shadow Visions, but how can you predict that your opponent took a completely board-focused Kazaku's potion, and so that you're going to need a high-value AoE? It's almost impossible to predict. Especially because
it's just not a strategy, like not your core strategy, right? It's not like a lot of the time you expect this to happen in some decks. It's like, well, no, it's just this kind of minion push is actually insane, and outside of Dragonfire and a Scream, Raza Priest doesn't really have a good answer to this kind of shape of board.
Priest's win rate in the tournament is trending back towards 50%. It started off very, very hot, though. It was up towards 66% after the early days. And these 2 players are people who are responsible for that high win rate, because neither DocPwn or Jason has lost with Priest yet this tournament. So one of those undefeated records is about to end right here. And again, with how complicated a deck it is in a lot of positions, that goes to show a great testament to both of these players navigating the deck.
Yeah, look at the power of this potion. Just put Jason down to 12. Yep. He has Mind Blast and Smite in hand.
Yep.
Just a lot of damage.
Aggro Priest.
Yeah.
Get him.
Sometimes people think of all these crazy strategies. I like to revert back to just punch them in the face. They can't kill you if they're dead.
And it goes back to what I was talking, like, again, Jason just had no expectation of this happening. He took a Kazaku's potion early, and he didn't take any removal, because why would he need it? He Shadow Visions early, and he didn't take any removal. He took small removal just to answer the board that turn. Because
and then came back.
Why would he need a Dragonfire potion? Well, it turns out because there's a huge board that's just been beating you down.
9 damage on board after this, Anduin comes down. No Raza means there's no cheeky hero power usage going on. This turn at least. Okay, we're definitely just getting clips of you, or sounds of you making these noises.
You want a compilation of random sounds that have come out of Salsa's mouth this week?
Yeah.
It could honestly be a description of pretty much anything I say, but it's just a random sound that comes out of my mouth.
It's not random. Language is random.
I'm sure some people would argue other things.
Oh, definitely. That's how much they argue when I talk.
My excitement that turn comes from the potential of the Lyra double Radiant turn that can come somewhere in the future, but it might just be completely surplus to requirements with the amount of pressure DocPwn has already.
Could be lethal this turn. You played Lyra. Got the right cards.
The right cards being Holy Smite over and over and over and over.
Yeah. Gara was here, you could say, but does he see it? Doc just going for the very, very just safe Anduin. Like, almost why not at this point? It's only more damage next turn. And he is not even remotely close to dying on a total of 35 health, whereas Jason, his Anduin's already down, his self-heal is limited to this greater healing potion and maybe something going forward out of his own Lyra. Where do you fall on the side of the Lyra and Gadgets and Fence?
So Auctioneer is better in the mirror and better against some heavy control matchups where you just need to find your like Velen combo and just smash it out as quickly as you can. Lyra does a little bit more against aggro a little quicker, and it can also sometimes help against Jade Druid, where sometimes Jade Druid can gain so much armor that the combination of every card in your deck doesn't kill them. So you need to add additional resources to add additional pings to be able to kill the amount of armor they can generate. So if you can play both and you're expecting all of those decks I mentioned in the tournament you're playing, play both.
Yeah, why not? Tom did.
Tom did. Jackie was talking about it on Twitter as well after qualifying for, I believe, the Tape TV tour stop.
Yep. Jason does get the Raza though off the powered shield on the Elemental last turn. Used the Great Healing Potion to just top himself up to a safer health total. I would not say safe, but safer. And we know Raza can make this. But now that that Great Healing Potion's gone, Jason's defensive capabilities are kind of thin to non-existent at this point because Anduin's already live for Doc, and we can see now Doc is probably going to press the button on these Elementals. See.
The shadows grow short.
Probably just going to go for the pass this turn, right?
Push his face for 6 more. Mind Blast and Holy Smite is 7 more. If he could hear it, if he could just get a couple of more hero powers in that turn, he would have been in business. Not quite sure what DocPwn's long-term game plan here was with dropping the Radiant Elementals, but I guess he's just trying to consolidate damage on board just to make sure that something else can connect next turn to back up this Mind Blast Holy Smite combo that he has.
Yeah, and with no Raza down for Jason at this moment in time, so from Doc's view, it's very difficult to clear this whole board up. If one Elemental lives, it's still looking very, very good. If none live, there's probably a 3-3 alive, and then look how much damage he has from hand.
Sure.
With the hero powers even at 2 mana, because Mind Blast and Smite, that's 3 mana total, and 6 extra damage.
Was it better, perhaps, instead of spending 2 more mana on a Radiant Elemental and floating a ping, to just throw out a Holy Smite and ping face again that turn? You get 1 extra hero power out that way, keep a Radiant Elemental back in hand for the fallback of Velen or Lyra later in the game if you need it. I don't know.
So you just consider it the other way, and if you draw Velen soon, you just Mind Blast Smite right?
Oh yeah.
Without an Elemental, do you know what I mean? Like,
if you draw Velen soon, yeah, the game ends.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of can Jason ever stabilize here and put you in a position
I think
where it
after
falls
seeing
back.
the healing potion, I don't even think there's anything left that can really get him there. Although, Resurrected Priest to the Feast, I mean, why not at this point? You're going to use the Mind Blast just to get any form of extra healing that you can. See there, Jason just prioritizing the kills onto those Elementals. Or the silence on one to stop the effect going on, of course.
So there's 8 damage in play, 13 from adding the Mind Blast, 15 from adding the Holy Smite, which means 2 pings makes it lethal by my count.
I'm not going to dispute that one. Looks pretty good to me.
Darkness.
Sure, Doc is just going to be like, This always gets tricky when the hero power costs mana, right? These are not mathematics you're used to doing that often.
This is not how you're supposed to play the deck.
Yeah,
Why
it's
does my
not.
hero power cost mana?
It should be free!
Bedbro, please. He can't be too upset, though, because it's a 2-0 lead. DocPwn is finding his way over the line again. It's his priest that remains undefeated. It's China's last hope that is now one game away from elimination. How long can this go on for DocPwn? Can he keep winning all the way?
Maybe. His hero power wasn't free, but this series might be for Doc. Incredible performance so far. I see the glances over to the lovely audience here as the cheers and the clapping goes. That's got to make you feel good in this position. Yeah. I think, was like, oh, playing in front of an audience, do you feel extra pressure? If they're cheering you, I think that would only make Doc feel better. Only got Rogue left now.
And it's a deck that has some autopilot wins, to be perfectly honest. There are draws that can be hard to lose with, although we have seen some of those draws get beaten already this tournament. We've seen both turn 3 10-10 Edwin and Keliseth double Shadow Step get beaten.
Yeah, we've got some of the plays we've seen this tournament have been absolutely amazing. But also, some of the events at this tournament are absolutely amazing as well. Not only is the World Championship being played out, but you can play against the current reigning world champion Pavel, holding on to his title for one more day. Plenty of cool stuff to do, plenty of cool people to meet. It's just going to be in the hall pretty much opposite at this point, so if you're here, there's no reason not to walk over and say hello.
If you do end up playing mini-games with Pavel, though, be careful, because he is a massive cheater.
He is.
I'm serious.
We've been on the receiving
He's such
end
a
of
tryhard. He will do anything to win on any occasion. But I do want to give a special shout out to Pavel. He's perhaps the one ingredient missing from this tournament. He had a phenomenal year, an incredible win rate throughout the entire year, qualifying for 2 championships, was not able to make it through by the finest of margins in both of them, and he has been a fantastic world champion for the past year.
I was just going to say, watching Pavel this past year has been absolutely amazing and a lot of fun in itself. But for these two players on stage now, might go as far to say the fun is over, it's the stress time. If Doc can take this win, he will move on, and it will be absolutely huge. There's Keliseth, and there is one of the other highest win rate cards in the deck, and in most aggro decks, South Sea Captain. When you combine those two, you quite often get a win.
He has 3 of the top 5 in his opening hand. Keliseth, Corridor Creeper, South Sea Captain are 3 of the 5 highest win rate mulligan cards in Tempo Rogue.
Keliseth and Creeper are 1 and 2, respectively, as well.
Yeah.
So.
The great thing about the mulligan stats for Tempo Rogue is that Prince Keliseth is kept 100% of the time. So shout outs to you, Hearthstone community. There is not one guy out there, not a single guy on record for HS Replay in any game of Hearthstone that's gone, nah.
I don't think you keep Keliseth in this matchup. I want 2 Corridor Creepers instead.
Maybe Hearthstone players aren't so dumb after all. Maybe we would be able to understand what a Fiery War Axe did.
Maybe. I'm sure the team are listening, so I am not going to continue this comment. I'll throw you under the bus for this one, Sol. You're on your own.
Thanks, buddy.
But yeah, Coin Keliseth is available now. Double captain. And this, although not seen too commonly, if you captain after Keliseth, and even just the captain survives, that second captain is even more insane. It makes the minions so much more harder to actually remove. Like, what deals with that? Most decks, never mind Priest.
Loot Hoarder's a good draw, though, because it stops the snowball. It stops Keliseth sticking to the board and attacking. You know, the Loot Hoarder can pre-challenge it, and then you can set up for the future.
Yeah, and then very importantly, when Keliseth is left on the board, you might think, oh, he didn't Shadow Step it. At least he's not done that. He can draw Shadow Step the next turn and do it. So this removes any Shadow Step draw from Doc, activating the Keliseth before the captain comes down, which is back-breaking in most games. It's like a good turn to me. Doc's like, which captain to play? Is there, speaking of it, is there any merit to playing a Firefly and Hero Power in here to kill the 1/1? Can't be, right?
I think so. It's
Not enough
so,
merit, should I say?
Yeah, right. It's just such a weak play in comparison to what you can do, especially when you have the threat of the second South Sea Captain to follow this up if there isn't a Shadow Word Pain or any other type of removal to come out here.
Huh. Jason can clear the board here. the Shadow Word Pain and the Holy Smite, you can just remove everything. Or you could try and bait some more minions out and go for the Kazakas for the 5. I imagine 5 mana? Yeah. Deal 4 damage across the board. Sometimes, or a lot of the time, you can get away with 1 and try and do that extra burst damage, combine it with Style Nose, you know, combine it with Spirit Lash, Pyro. But with the Keleseth buff, you need that deal 4.
I don't believe he got it.
I don't think he got it either yet.
There was a play I liked that turn. I don't know if Jason considered it, where you actually just Shadow Word Pain and you don't deal with the patches. The patches gets debuffed to a 2/2 from your perspective, not knowing that the second South Sea Captain is in hand. And then on the following turn, you have Potion of Madness and Kazakas to fill out your curve, and you could potentially use the patches to trade away, perhaps trade up into 3 health if your Novice Engineer lives as well, which it's entitled to. Doc goes face a lot in this matchup, doesn't have to take value trades. And you didn't really have a good turn 5 anyway, but Kazakas solves that same problem, right? Oh, I didn't have a good turn 5.
Yeah,
I will play Kazakas and take a 5 potion. Now I have a good turn 5.
Yeah, and this potion, just in case you missed it, there was Resurrect 2 and then Freeze 2. So you could get the Loot Holder back, which would definitely help. Could also get a 1/1 back, which wouldn't really help as much.
Top analysis.
Cheers, man. So, Doc just being in such a good position, his hand looks great, to be completely honest. And the fact he's still got the coin just unlocks so many extra doors and opportunities for Doc to really burst something out with this rogue gang. Is this the turn he goes for? Oh no, it goes for 2. It looked like he hovered over coin for a second and I was like, wait.
Yeah, I wonder about this play. I mean, this is obviously respecting the Kazakas potion being 4 AoE, right? He drew a Saronite Chain Gang. Those Chain Gangs are buffed to be 3/4s. So if you just played that out as the natural on-curve play, the 5-mana Kazakas potion would be a perfect clear for his board state. My counter-argument to that is, hey, sometimes they just don't have it. You can just play the Saronite Chain Gang and just wait for your Corridor Creeper to get cheaper and cheaper as the game progresses. And hey, even if they do spend their entire turn destroying your board, it's their entire turn, and you just refill afterwards with the stuff that you have in your hand anyway. Corridor Creeper, South Sea Deckhand, South Sea Captain, whatever else it is. I would have liked to just see him slam the Saronite that time.
I don't mind this. I think because you're the turn before Dragonfire as well, if you get even one swing out the Creeper, which is very likely to happen, you're feeling pretty good about it. You've just got the damage in. Yes, it wasn't 0 mana, but a lot of your other plays weren't super impactful going forward anyway. Hold
2 3/4s is pretty impactful if they don't get dealt with.
Yeah, I guess. Everything dies to Dragonfire though.
Everything does die to Dragonfire.
So many.
This coin is absolutely huge though. If Doc can hold on to it till next turn, try and stick a minion and then go for that, you know, that 1 turn quicker Bone Mare, which is just the fear of Priest players, because they normally want to just Anduin after that Bone Mare and say haha, or deny the Bone Mare at any given time. But when they go 1 turn quicker, you take so much damage in that first swing, then often forced to Anduin, and then not do much else, then they can build up the board again and go. Shaking the head from Sottle there. I'm going to commentate your facial expressions, not the players.
Yeah, I just don't like the sequencing over the last couple of turns from DocPwn. He's ended up, you know, walking into the same stuff just in the other way around. I feel like the upside of just waiting for a Corridor Creeper to get discounted and perhaps not even committing it until you've seen things like Dragonfire Potion or Shadow Reaper Anduin. Like, I think it would have worked out a lot better for him.
Just take a 5-drop now? That's reasonable. Maybe play the Swashbuckler for 4-drop.
You could make it your 8 as well. If you Bone Mare next turn and it walks into Shadow Reaper Anduin, you could then just refill with another huge minion for Forbidden Shaping on 8.
Lich King.
Lich King, yeah.
Just play Lich King.
That is in fact an 8-drop. Should we just name some 8-drops until we run out?
Just name it good.
Pirate's Code.
So I'm pretty sure Jason has a reasonable idea that Bone Mare's in hand at the moment. He'll know coin is. I've talked about the opposites of what we mentioned a lot about hand checking is that players could miss something and miscount. But I'm pretty sure you always got an eye on the coin, right? You know the coin's not been played. So be aware that this looked like a very strong setup going into a coin bone mare turn, because the minions you don't bone mare dodge the Anduin as well. So you gain like 50% of your board kind of stays alive.
I'm guessing, based on DocPwn's mouse movements right now, that he's thinking of coining the Forbidden Shaping next turn instead of Bone Marrying and trying to use that to bait the Anduin instead. So I think he's like reading Forbidden Shaping and then reading the coin and trying to figure out like how that interaction works as to whether if you have like 7 max mana on a turn, would he get an 8 or a 7?
Can you 100% confirm he's getting 8 again?
I mean, in the face of Shadow Reaper Anduin coming down, he would keep a 3/3 that he can then Bone Mare the turn afterwards if he does it that way around.
Gain like charge, so to speak, on the bone mare attack.
I mean, the Bone Mare attack has charge right now. It's just the fact that both of the minions get exploded as opposed to just
That's what I mean. Like the turn you go for it, you do the dodge, right? These Firefly is also still pretty nice for late game, whether it's going to be on the receiving end of a Scalebane buff or to activate that Valspine. So Firefly and the Elemental still have plenty of use. Sometimes you look at 1-drops in hand at this point in the game and think, these are pretty dumb. Not even. He's going to go for it as well. Good, good hand judging. Oh, nearly Lich King.
No, that's definitely no. That doesn't even live in the same neighborhood as the Lich King.
It's legendary.
Sure. They have one.
Got you on that. Now you're going to go for Anduin. Shadow Word Death just on the one threat. You are almost expecting Doc to expect the Anduin and then to have a refill.
Right.
So Jason just using the Death and saying, well, Death on a huge Dark Reaper seems pretty good to me. This Captain not too much of a threat now, which means Anduin can always be held on to for 1, 2, or 3 more turns. Not 4.
It's like a Valspine turn to me. A 3/7 Taunt is about the most problematic minion that you're ever going to get to Valspine in this matchup.
Yeah, and if you can stick minions, you don't want to then put them into a taunt, right? In this matchup, these minions need to hit base as often as possible. And what else are you Valspine as well in Priest? I think that was a fortunate Valspine, if anything. It's a 4/5, and a lot of the time, Priest only plays minions either super early game or when you're dead.
And these two players are very much engaged in the dance of the Bone Mares right now. I mean, I think they are both fully aware of what's going on by this point, just in terms of hand reads, cards that have been in the hand for extremely long time. That Bone Mare was opening hand for DocPwn. I believe the Shadow Reaper Anduin was the draw on turn 2 or turn 3 from JasonZhou. And now, because those cards have stuck around for so long, they're probably well aware that those two cards that interact horribly with each other on both sides are present for both players, meaning they're just playing this game of chicken, trying to get each one to play.
It'd be great if you could just turn those one card up in each hand, like face up to your opponent nose and just stare at them.
Right.
Speaking of Bone Mare, it kind of look like it might be dancing in the card art.
What kind of dance is that?
Because it's like reared up. I think it's about to, like receive a partner for ballroom dancing. It's just its arms are ready, and it's just waiting on that partner to come along. Maybe lead. I don't know.
So its arms are ready, or its knees weak.
Too soon.
We're not carrying this up. Because you won't stop. That's why. I think Scale. I think Scalebane and the Flame Elemental is a fine turn here. Mainly because the buff puts the Elemental outside of the Anduin range. Doc agrees.
The problem now is that Doc has opened a window where Jason can now Shadow Reaper and not get Bone Mared on the backswing.
Because of the hero power.
Because of the hero power. He fully clears this board, and now DocPwn cannot punish the activation with the Bone Mare. This is the dance that you've been seeing come to a conclusion over the last few turns. they've both been trying to set up that opportunity where Jason is forced to Anduin a board that Doc can then respond with a Bone Mare. Hasn't happened. Jason's won the exchange, may well have won the matchup because of it.
And now, you know, Doc's lost a small minion, right? You know, you don't have anything small to even combo, so maybe Valspine as a Yeti would have just been better, right? Dodge the Anduin, there's no good way to do enough damage, especially without Raz alive.
And you saw him think about it. You saw him pick up that Valspine as the first card he was going to play, which you would have to play it first. You don't have to combo kill your own minion. And then he bailed out at the last moment and went back to the Scalebane.
Small moments change games quite dramatically. Now do you Valspine? This Leroy is dead every single time next turn, 100% of the time. But if two hero powers have to go into Leroy, are you okay having a Valspine on board? If not, what is your next turn looking like? Mind controlling a minion that might not even be played?
Right.
So,
yeah, I mean, we haven't really talked about it because normally pulling a mind control off a random effect is pretty exciting and we'd be freaking out about it. But in this matchup, like, what is that thing going to do? Velen? Is Velen going to hit the board and
steal a minion if targeted?
Oh, okay.
Bring it to Doc's side of the board.
Right.
Under his control. Some would call it with his mind. But yes, there are no good targets. Normally, especially at this point in the game, at any point you can play mind control. Velen, of course, is normally the death sentence as opposed to just slamming on the board. Can you imagine what the game would look like? Mind control was still 8 with Dirty Round. Like, what a turn 10.
That is pretty.
What a turn 10. Yeah. Shadowword Pain, though, kind of solving the problem that I mentioned beforehand, right? Of now the Valspine's probably quite difficult to deal with as well as the Leroy. And that Shadowword Pain makes it easy as pie for JasonZhou.
Jason's turn now to have his face in his hands. We've seen that stance from DocPwn over multiple occasions during this series, but you can suddenly see the stakes are crystallizing for both of these players.
100%, and JasonZhou cannot afford to misstep. Doc can lose a game. Guess what? He can lose 2 games and still make it. JasonZhou cannot drop a single game. There's the mind control. Taking the Raz on 4 health. Mainly because of this dagger being equipped. Even with just the 1 charge, it was enough to move, say, the easy threat removal with the Pyro.
Should be game, I believe.
Is this a I believe, yes, it should be game, or I believe Jason can do it?
Jason is firing off all of his spells. Mind Blast, Holy Smite, all the hero powers. Silence goes through as well. The Blood Mage draw was picked up for even more damage, but wasn't necessary in the end. The animations are going to have a little bit of catching up to do, but JasonZhou has got the job done.
Yeah, I said he couldn't afford to lose a game, and he's not losing this one. He is going to be fighting back versus DocPwn, but still plenty of Hearthstone left in this one as these animations come up. Tense game for both players, and you know, sometimes you do wind it back and say, was that turn correct with the Scalebane? Was it just too easy of a kill because it was a turn 10 onwards of Anduin and then hero power without Raza was available?
And even before that, the sequencing of the Saronite Chain Gang and the Corridor Creeper, I would very much like to revisit as well, because we've seen some tempo rogues get over the line in a lot of matchups that were very difficult for them, and those fine margins can be the difference.
100%. We are going to be back very soon with the next game and the total of this series. And this lovely little lady is a big Jason fan, so hopefully Verse she'll make it. We are ready to continue this extremely tense series. These players are in an elimination match, and that is all that is left for this World Championship for all of these players. 2-1 for DocPwn at the moment. Can Jason fight back? Let's find out. It is, of course, Rogue again from the Doc. JasonZhou on the Druid.
There's that familiar stance again we've seen from both players. DocPwn staring hard at his mulligan, hands over his own mouth, deep in thought. Jason does nail the Galaka Crawler. As I've mentioned many, many times this week, I have seen the very best tempo rogue players outplay Galactic Crawlers in this matchup quite consistently by just navigating through their turns without playing Pirates. Well, DocPwn doesn't really have a handful of Pirates he wants to be playing anyway. Again, we see patches coming out. It does seem to be happening
It's kind of nuts.
with incredible consistency this tournament, way above the expected average.
I think everyone might be playing on Admirable's account. That's why.
Admirable, of course, the unluckiest Hearthstone player in
In the world. Maybe the universe.
Source, that's Admirable.
No, that's Admirable. What did you mean?
The Admiral.
That's like perfect. There's multiple 3-drop options here in SI7 Agent, or the Van Cleave just to use with coin. DocPwn can just go for the dagger and save the coin, but I do feel he needs something out here to start contesting these minions.
He does, yeah. He
Maybe
doesn't.
the SI for the 2-2, right?
Right. It's what leaps out at me, but his hand does start to get a little bit ugly with the usage of the coin. I feel like if he doesn't coin though, and any buff hits the board, he's already too far behind. Like, he's already in just an insurmountable position at that point. Because then he develops, let's say any +1/+1 hits this board. His next turn is developing a 3/3 into a board that already has a 2/4 on it. So his opponent can just hero power trade and just play anything else, and he's miles behind.
Definitely rough. Not going for the dagger though. We're going to see very, very quickly whether this works out for him or not. And not swinging either, not trying to preemptively chip away at potential buff minion damage. Here comes the captain and his good friend Patches from JasonZhou. Already a lot of damage, no buffs in hand yet. But as you said, one may be enough. Now with the coin, this was kind of my issue with the coin, is if you save the coin now, you're kind of saving it for Minstrel this turn potentially, or Patches coin and then Van Cleave for SI. But like, the Minstrel kind of goes away at this point because it's just not good enough, right, to play.
4 mana Blood Pen Raptor.
Yeah, it's not good enough when you're this far behind. Now I just wonder, does this make enough of an impact that two damage removed from the board and the 3/3 already on the board would have changed?
I'm gonna be honest, I really don't like this. He's making a 6/6 Edwin, but it's a 6/6 Edwin that has no right to go face whatsoever.
And it has one attack.
It has one attack per turn, and it has to trade. It does not threaten to race this board state in any scenario.
Second captain and choice of 1-drop for JasonZhou. I think Doc had to go for the SI early. Just hope for a backstab. You know, sometimes it's just the way it goes, or worst case, you have one more turn and then you can just patch it SI again.
If you coin the SI, you take care of the 2/2, your opponent has the buff, sure, they can do the same thing. Buff their guy into a 2/4, hero power your 3/3, they still have a 2/1 remaining. Well, the big difference is that they have an entire 2/2 less on the board, and then you can dagger up. You might draw a 1-drop to play with it. You can even just choose to play another 3/3 of your own to develop into that. It gives you a platform with which you can use to contest this board state. A 6/6 Edwin just doesn't.
Yeah, it's definitely really rough here. Has to work out what he wants to do. As he said, this Edwin is the idea of a big Edwin normally is to just race someone, but it's just you cannot use it in this way. And now this is only getting progressively worse. JasonZhou hasn't even drawn a buff, and it's still bad for Doc.
Yep.
You know, if he'd drawn a buff, this game would probably have just ended by now, or at least this turn.
Jason now, he has, what, 9, 10 damage to throw at the face that turn if he wanted, or he can trade and play Living Mana, and I think both are somewhere in the region of 100% win rate.
Yeah, I mean, if you could pick from all of the cards left in the deck, I still don't think it gets you there. Swashbuckler can do some wonderful things, but I'm not sure there's anything in Druid for 4 mana that gets there. Whisper of the Old Gods isn't it. And I think that's going to be a swift concede here from DocPwn.
This
Is that self-SI?
It sure was.
Okay. Head in hands for Doc from a 2-0 lead. JasonZhou has caught up. Everything on the line for this last game of the series. One player advances. One player's World Championship run is over.
It's an incredible performance from both of these players to keep in it this long. I think DocPwn's play has dropped off a little bit since he's moved on to the tempo rogue. He's looked a little bit unsure with it, but JasonZhou staying in there, playing solid. He's brought it back to the rogue mirror now.
Yeah, and coming up next, after this match has been resolved, we have Tom60229 versus JasonZhou. I asked Tom about it in his winners interview this morning. How do you feel about going up against a practice partner and a fellow Asia Pacific player? And he said he would just be happy that one of them gets through. We've also a wonderful crowd here and a lot of supporters. You were talking about age as an old man yourself, Sol, but it's also nice to see some young supporters going on here, and definitely a Frozen fan.
And as we all know, little girls love Frozen. This
Exactly.
is just a self-evident fact of life. In Hearthstone, it is no different.
Of course. Everything to play for now as these players will be moving into the final game of this series. I quite frankly cannot imagine what it's like for those two on the stage right now. You're about to queue in your last deck, potentially your last game of the World Championship.
And it's a mirror match. And mirror matches are just ugly. It doesn't matter what competitive pursuit you are in, you never want to play a mirror. In any other matchup, you know there are situations that you are trying to engineer that you are comfortable in that your opponent isn't. You have a goal, there's a back and forth, there's a struggle looking for a position. But in this position, in a mirror match, no player is either comfortable because you're both trying to do the same things all the time. There's no safe zone for either player. It's why mirror matches are just so fundamentally unpleasant.
Yeah. Although I love this mirror match. I actually quite like the Rogue Mirror. I think it's pretty awesome.
I think it's great.
I think there are...
Having said all that,
after
I
how
actually really enjoy it.
And Sotul likes unpleasant things.
Yeah.
But I think there are so many just... Because Rogue is a class that is built on tricks and small little edges and sneaky things you can do, right? And it's those small little plays that often make the biggest difference, and we've seen that in this tournament so far.
All right, step one. DocPwn kept Vilespine and a Firefly. I like keeping the Vilespine. He's on point. Vilespine is a massively impactful card in the matchup. I don't like him keeping Firefly. I think there are a lot more important cards that you can find in your opening hand. A 1-2 is not a game-winning card on turn one. It's much more a mid-game battle for resources and a mid-game battle for control of the board state. I would have liked to have seen him gone for the higher win rate cards like Corridor Creeper, Prince Kaliseth, and so on.
You end up with Shadow Step off the top as well, and again, Shadow Step's one of those cards that can win or lose you the game, to be completely honest. How you utilize it, and quite often in some unconventional ways, such as just Shadow Stepping a target that is very cheap, just so you have a 0 mana activator later on for Vilespine, for a charging minion with Bone Mare. All these plays might not seem super obvious because you might do them 2 turns in advance, but making these plays are what makes the whole difference happen.
JasonZhou, on the other hand, by the way, Mulligan wasn't the most complicated thing in the world. He kept the Corridor Creeper, he threw away the rest of his cards.
Fine Mulligan.
Yeah. JasonZhou, though, speaking of his accomplishments as a player, this could be the first time a player has reached the top 4 at a World Championship twice if he makes it through this match.
It's actually quite incredible because it's not like we have had 20 World Championships, right? It's like, it's been a very small number.
Right. We used to freak out just about the people who had made it back to a second World Championship. That list is starting to grow, but to make
it's still impressive.
It's still incredibly impressive, of course. To go through such a long system as Hearthstone has to get to a World Championship in the first place more than once is phenomenal. To keep going then through the best players the world has had to throw at you that year and hit top 4 on 2 different occasions, that's phenomenal.
Yeah, it would be quite the achievement. But first he has to get past Doc. I was going to say, in terms of the Mulligan and how it worked out, these 2 Corridor Creepers could be like a single decisive strike that ends the game if Doc isn't either already quite ahead or prepared to deal with them. As we said, we saw the Vilespine is in hand. Backstab is used now, but there is still the Shadow Step if Doc keep a minion on the board to utilize it in the next couple of turns. He can set that up actually just with Firefly. He can guarantee an activator. Oh no, are we going to see Chain Gang into Chain Gang? Just for the extra, how long can this go on?
We may very well, yeah. The battle for resources here is particularly interesting because this can become a fight for late game value. The cards match up so evenly against each other, as you would expect in a mirror, that the usage of Elven Minstrels can actually be very key just to have those extra cards to push over the line in the late game. Well, Doc has that Minstrel and he has Shadow Step to get repeated value out of it if he wants. But Jason's just stumbled into a sprint, which he will probably not use until his hand is empty. But at that point, it becomes very powerful.
You know how long you've played Hearthstone, you might be like, oh, is Sprint that good? It's not been played for a while. Sprint used to be extremely good and extremely useful in the Miracle Rogue, especially played in the Oil Rogue days as well, right?
Yes.
Absolutely insane, but what is pretty insane as well, a 0 mana 5/5s and a 5 mana 5/5 that buffs as well. This is the turn that could change everything here and make JasonZhou move on to the top 4.
Was that a good turn? I can't tell.
Were you not listening to how good I just said the turn was?
Yeah, this will actually be Jason's second reverse sweep of the tournament if he puts it together. He's making a bit of a name for himself.
Making a bit of a Pavel of himself.
Repeat before, exactly. I was about to make that same analogy. Pavel was the guy that was reverse sweep after reverse sweep in last year's World Championship, which was in a best-of-7 format as well. He kept coming up with 3-0 down back to 4-3. Jason not quite as uphill a climb to get there, but still an amazing performance.
So many.
Dog's mentioned about his experience in multiple competitive environments, other card games, chess he's talked about extensively. So hopefully for him, he is used to dissecting extremely difficult puzzles of, I have these tools, how do I deal with this mess on the board? Because that's what he has to do if he has any chance of winning this game. Wow. Oh yeah, patches.
These swashbucklers are insistent on card draw right now. Sprints and Elven Minstrels is what we're looking at so far. Are we going to see the dagger to neutralize the 1-1, or is it Keliseth? Because the chain gang is almost certainly coming down this turn. It's just a matter of what Jason values more going into this next turn, because getting the dagger up to be able to take care of minions so that they're not sticking to the board to Bone Mare, he might actually see it as a very useful aspect.
I do wonder about this though, because Keliseth is still, you've already easily got the board. Keliseth is still an additional minion. You do have access to Sprint as well, which will draw all those buffed minions earlier. How much does killing that 1-1 matter when the minions you had on board have 3 health, and then you play Sirenite Chain Gang? You are still a turn away from Bone Man, so you have that 1 turn freedom to a certain extent. Yeah.
DocPwn, I think, has just consigned his fate. There is 13, 15, 17 on the board, 18 from the dagger, plus the Leroy is 24 exactly. JasonZhou is going to reverse sweep a rogue for the second time in this tournament, and for the second time take his place as one of the top 4 players in the world.
And look at the look of relief there from Jason as you realized that was going to be the game. Absolutely intense all series. The reverse sweep, and as you said, Sol, second time in the top 4 of the Hearthstone World Championship. A truly amazing performance from JasonZhou. And at this point, you've got to imagine he's feeling on top of the world, and he's probably feeling as confident as ever to become the Hearthstone World Champion this year.
Yeah, before we hear from Jason though, let's just take a moment to appreciate what DocPwn has brought to the tournament. He has been a phenomenal story. I'm sure he's been a great inspiration to some part-timers out there looking to break into the scene. I think he's improved leaps and bounds since his Bahamas performance, and he's a great guy as well, so I'm just pleased to have him as a part of the community.
Yeah, Doc has proven it can be done. No matter how busy you are, there's always time for some Hearthstone. But let's listen to what JasonZhou has to say about that amazing victory. He's standing by with TJ.
Thanks very much, guys. I'm joined on stage by JasonZhou. And you know what this does, right? This makes you the first player in Hearthstone's history to qualify for a top 4 twice at a World Championship. How does that feel?
My heart just beating out. I was like 0-2 behind The same like versus Corento, but that time Omega Zero is alive. I was like, okay, I can lose, but this time I feel like I can't lose. Okay, I don't know. I just did it.
You did. That's right. Were the thoughts when you went down 0-2? Were thoughts of, I'm done, I'm out of the tournament? Was that going through your head at all, or were you just focused on the match and focused on trying to complete another reverse sweep?
I think I have a bit nervous, but most likely I keep very calm down, and I think that's why I come back, because I'm not very nervous when I'm behind. Yeah, that's it.
All right, well, one final question. Did you make room in your luggage for the trophy?
Almost. Okay, like tomorrow has 2 matches, right? Or maybe it has 2 matches, but I'm gonna try hard to get 1 year massage.
That's right. The good businessman, JasonZhou. One more round of applause. He's headed to the semifinals. But thanks very much, man. Congratulations. Let's send it back over to the desk.